Welcome to Red Zone Sports. We got NFL Week 3. I can't believe it's Week 3, but hey, we all had a great week last week. We were winning. We had the right picks. We had the right combos. I mean, we were all over that Cardinals game. I know the Rams didn't, come back on the other side how we wanted it to, but man, Vinny took down a tournament. He took first place. He was a big boy. So Vinny smashed. Man, I had a lineup that was right there that just happened to have Cooper Kupp in it, and it's like, wow, like if that didn't happen, that would have took down a tournament as well. So I felt really good last week. Feel good vibe.
So one thing, just a reminder, because I still don't think that a lot of people do this. I mean, I know that like a lot of the sharp people do, but once I saw where Cooper Kupp's ownership was, and this is before the game even started, all my lineups that, weren't going to get there or were not even like close to cashing, I swapped all of them onto Marvin Harrison Jr., every single one. And, did I know that Marvin Harrison Jr. was going to go for 118 and 2 touchdowns? No. But I went from a 45 to 55% owned Cooper Kupp, who ended up getting hurt, to Marvin Harrison Jr., and it turned my, a pretty decent $400 or $500 day to an $1,100 day because I min cashed and got into the cash basically everywhere because he was 4% owned. So it's just one of those things. We've got 5 late games this week. If your lineups you think are, quote unquote dead, and a guy is highly owned, late swap onto a guy that is not highly owned, right? So
you have to, because you cannot catch the field for someone who's 40% owned.
If you're, 30 points out of the money going into the afternoon games, and you have a guy in that lineup that's 50% owned or 30% owned or something like that, or you're min cash and you've got 2 people left and one of them's going to be 35 to 40% owned, there's no way you can even attempt to take down that tournament. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's just one of those things that we don't talk about it a whole lot, but last week it worked for me. Right. And I didn't take down any tournaments, but still turned $1,100 in profit, just from literally late swapping all these guys. And I got into the top 30, the top 20. Right. So it's just one of those things. Just don't forget about that. Pay attention to the ownership. I know some people like to have fun on Sunday with football, with drinking and, whatever, but it's just one little thing to pay attention to, right?
No, it's a good point. And yeah, Vinny, how did it feel taking down a tournament? Week 2. You're on mute, buddy. Vinny.
Sorry, couldn't find the mute button. Couldn't find the mute button there. We're good.
This is year 4, not 1. All right.
Hey, take it easy. A little technical difficulty. Felt good, man. So it was interesting. I took it down on FanDuel, not DraftKings, but the lineup was built squarely from talking through the plays on the
podcast. Yeah. So Ben's lineup, and it was right from it, right?
It felt really good. Yeah. I mean, it was the Kyler Murray stack, which was kind of from, I know we all liked it, but that was the one you called out. I played him with Harrison and McBride, just knowing Harrison was going to be low owned after last week.
And he's frozen. Okay,
Vinny's son might be chewing up some cords right now. I did hear his voice in the background. So
did we get
we'll get back to Vinny.
Vinny's back. Are you back?
Yeah, I think I'm here. Did you catch all that or not at all?
Nope.
No, we didn't catch any of it, but it's okay.
Oh, okay. Well,
it's okay. What the listeners need to know is that Vinny won with the Cardinals stack, and what was on the backside of that stack, then?
It was the Cardinals stack with Jordan Mason, Neighbors, Rashee Rice, Breece Hall, and played the Packers against Richardson. So
literally every person we talked about.
The only guy we didn't really talk about on the show that I had in the lineup was Jonathan Taylor. And the only reason I played him was because I needed to get off of some of the Jordan Mason.
He was my top back.
What's up?
Jonathan Taylor's my top running back, high-end running back.
Well, it was just more of a low-owned play, and I had the salary for it. And I was like, this is going to be different. If I would have played Kamara with this lineup, I would have. I mean, you're in the shot for the millie, right? So you're that close. It's just crazy the margins sometimes, but it played out.
Definitely.
It worked out well. So,
well, nicely done. Essentially, listeners, what we're telling you is pay attention because sounds like we actually know what we're doing. So on that note, let's hop on quarterbacks. And I know, Vinny, we always start with you here, but I got to give you the torch after taking down a tournament. So who is your top high-owned quarterback? I'd say just let's go above that 6,500 plus mark there.
Yeah. So if I'm going up this week, I know Jim has talked about it the first few weeks here. I am moving to. I'm going to play some Lamar this week. I love that he's in the dome. I love that both of these teams, but especially, I mean, the Ravens, especially in the AFC, are in like total wounded animal mode early on here. Like they could drop to 0-3 if they lose this game. So Jim talked about a little bit on the show last week. He was like, yeah, I'm a little bit unsure on Lamar just because he might not be running like he was in week 1. I have a feeling he's going to be running on Sunday. Like they have to win this game. So I like Lamar when he's in kind of that, again, wounded animal mode. And I love that you got a very clear and easy bring back with CD. So if I'm paying up, it's Mr. Lamar.
I like it. All right, Jim, what do you got?
Yeah, it's an interesting one for me this week, but a guy that's going a little bit, under-owned. I'm going to go to CJ Stroud. We haven't been able to play him on a main slate yet. Or maybe we have. I don't know about week 1. But last week he was on primetime, obviously. I really like his weapons. I like his options. I think Nico Collins is an absolute beast. Tank Dell is just the ultimate boomer bust tournament play. So it's one of those things where, I like going up to him. He's not a running quarterback, so that's kind of a little bit of a bummer to me. Minnesota's defense, they played well against the Niners. I just really like CJ Stroud in larger tournaments specifically, just because I think it's a little bit different. I think a lot of people are going to go to Kyler this week, obviously, from what he did last week. And he's playing Detroit. We all saw what Stafford did to Detroit. I don't not like Kyler, but I think CJ is a guy that, I'm probably only going to pair him with 1 or 2 people. If I do double stack him, it'll probably be with Diggs and a little homecoming to Minnesota there, where I think it's interesting. It's inside. So, yeah, I'm going to go take a little bit of a deviation from what I'd normally do and go play some CJ Stroud. What about you, Joe?
I mean, I think the obvious pick is Kyler Murray. Everyone's thinking it. I mean, he looks so good, right? Throwing the ball, he's escaping, right? He's barely getting touched, and but I have a feeling, right? His ownership is just going to fly high. Like I'm still going to have him, right? Like I feel like I got to have some of him, but I'm going to go to Jared Goff at 6,500. He's been burning me the first 2 weeks. He hasn't looked great. This offense will turn it around. I believe in all their weapons. I believe in their offensive coordinator. I just believe in everything that they're doing. And when it all comes together, it's going to really come together. And you're going to see this offense put up just massive numbers. This game has potential to go like 70 total points on the game. So I just really like Jared Goff. Hopefully Arizona gets off to a hot start and Detroit has to throw the ball a little bit more and you get like a 40 pass attempt type of game. But at the end of the day, this has the highest over-under on the entire slate. I'm loving the Cardinals side of it. I love the Lions side of it. The Lions have been burning me. I'm not going away for it. I'm not overreacting. They are a good team, and they will figure it out. And you just got to, hit the dart when that week is. And I think this week could be an easy week for it.
You're goddamn right.
Okay, I like that. So going down, let's just stay with you, Joey. So under 6,500, who's your guy in there? Is it the ex-Raider? Are you going back to him? The man with the hot hand? Ooh.
No, because it's going to fall apart at some point.
I mean, Philadelphia's pass defense, we just saw it the other night. It just falls apart. They're getting no pressure on the quarterback.
It's more of the fact that I think a lot of Derek Carr's success right now is the run efficiency of the Saints right now. When they're running the ball well, I mean, he's just throwing to wide open receivers down the field with no pressure. His offensive line really isn't good, right? I feel like there's a lot of things getting masked right now. I think obviously the Panthers are the worst team in the NFL. I also think that the Cowboys are not even close to as good as people thought they were. I think they're in shambles, not in shambles, but Zimmer coming back to coaching. I mean, I don't know, right?
They might be in shambles.
They might be in shambles, right? I don't know if I'm ready to call that yet, but they're definitely not as good as people thought they were. The Saints are going to be like a 9-8 team. I think Philadelphia, talk about a team on the ropes that's 0-2. I think Vic Fangio is going to say, Derek Carr, come beat me.
No, Philly won week 1. Remember they won the Brazilian
that's
match.
Right. I'm sorry. But they're not looking great, but they're on the ropes. And look, they're going to dial up. Vic Fangio is going to dial up something against Derek Carr this week. I hope Derek Carr's ownership goes up to like 20-25%, and then he just
it's not going to get that. I mean, I think that Derek Carr will top out at like 16% probably. He's at 11 right now.
Oh, that for Derek Carr.
We just had to talk about
some people just want the world to burn.
So, all right. Exactly. So who's your guy between 55 and 63 then?
Yeah, I am gonna go with Brock Purdy. And look, the Niners, Shanahan just can't really get out of his own head, and he just run the ball 35 times with Jordan Mason, but he just won't do it. Look, I think Purdy can put up some massive numbers this week on very low attempts. I think he can have a game where he goes like 18 of 22, 3 touchdowns, no picks, just a super highly efficient game, and he gets us there at that 6,000 price tag.
Well, I mean, I like the call because you've got McVay, who's not a bad head coach, and the Rams' run defense is just absolutely terrible. So conventional wisdom, everyone is like, hey, the Niners are just going to line up and do what the Chargers did last week, right? And run the ball 44 times. The Chargers ran the ball 44 times last week. That's like a Kyle Shanahan like wet dream, right? But he's not going to do it. Like Joey said, he just will not commit to it. And I think you're going to get some really low ownership. Normally the Niners are so spread out too from like a stacking perspective that it's tough to figure out who it's going to be. But this week, you've got the Rams, who play a lot of zone, who are down to their third string safety, and the two guys who are healthy for the Niners eat zone alive, and that's George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk. Okay,
yeah, it's consolidated down. Debo's out, McCaffrey's out. Yeah.
It's easy this week. So I mean, I like the call a lot, Joe. Ben, who is your guy in between 55 and 6,300?
Well, I like Purdy, and then I'm going down, and I've got a few kind of ugly, spicy, maybe fun plays. I'm going to save the last one because it's just going to make you guys angry. But, dude, I'm playing a little Minshew here.
Hey, why would that make me angry?
Here's the reasoning. The Raiders never play to what like the script is supposed to be. I think they win this game, but something's weird's going to happen with this Andy Dalton switch where like they're going to let Carolina get in it. Defensive touchdown.
Oh yeah, the Raiders. I'm 100% convinced the Raiders are not covering.
And I think
that they win.
This is the type of game that we love with Minshew. It's because like chaos ensues, and we talk about it. He's Captain Chaos. Like he thrives in it. He's going to throw like an early pick 6 or 2, and then have to come back. And that's where.
And on top of that, he's got 2 prominent receivers, and that's who he's going to. It's Devontae and it's Brock Bowers. It's a very easy stack.
They're not running the ball at all.
Well, they can't. They just suck. They're like literally Antonio Pierce is like, no, we're going to abandon the zone run game. Like after week 2, he's like, we can't do it. Like we suck. So we're
this is script. This is Captain Chaos from last year when we used to play the Colts. This is the type of game that Minshew is just like dreaming of, and I think it happens this weekend. So I love me some Minshew down here.
Yeah, you can tell there's some trust happening though. Like even last week, like Luke Getsy was like, all right, we're gonna let Minshew spin a little bit. And look, he's second in the league right now in passing yards, and he's like first in the league in completion percentage. Right. I'm not saying like he's like this fucking world beater, but it's like no, like Minshew actually looks pretty good, and he's throwing it to 2 guys. It's the easiest, simplest stack you can possibly do.
Yeah, it is. So I got gross last week, and it worked with old Danny Dimes. He was my highest owned quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
It got there, right? It wasn't pretty, but it happened. This week, I'm going to another guy who is wildly unpopular for his off-the-field allegations.
Dude, you took my guy.
I think they're a little bit more than
and that's going to be Deshaun Watson. 2 weeks in a row now. Week 1, it looked like he hadn't played football in a long time, which he hadn't. Week 2, he looked a little better, started running it a little bit. I mean, we always look for guys who can try and run the ball a little bit, right? No one's going to play this guy. He's going to be like 5-6% owned. They're playing the Giants, right? The Giants defense is absolutely terrible. You go look at what Jaden Daniels put up from a quarterback's perspective last week. It wasn't great, but there was no touchdowns. Browns are going to score some touchdowns this week, okay? I'm fine with just playing him by himself, playing naked, which he likes to do a lot. Or you can pair him with Cooper, who's been absolutely terrible so far, but he's getting a ton of targets. So he's going to continue to get opportunities. I'm fine there. If you want to add in Judy, I don't think you really need to do that. But, I mean, at 5,500 on a guy who's playing the Giants and, like, everyone's going to Geno Smith at 5,600, no thanks, man. Like, I'll play Deshaun Watson, 55 all day. You can play him by himself. You can play him with Cooper. You can play him with Ford if you wanted to. Again, I don't really think you need to do that, but it's just an easy 2-man stack and just kind of go from there. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm going to be concentrating most of my ownership for quarterback down there.
Well, you took my guy just to kind of add a little cherry on that Sunday there. But no, dude, that defense is absolutely atrocious, especially the secondary. Bad. And I think this is a game, we just talked about Minshew. Like, this is the type of game when everyone's sleeping on him after a couple weeks where Amari Cooper goes for like 180 and 2 touchdowns. Like,
for sure.
This is that game like we talked about. Just look at the history of this guy. So,
yep.
I'm with you, man. Let's ride high on Mr. Deshaun.
All right. Well, I got the most bottom of the barrel guy, and I got good reasoning, I believe.
Oh, no.
I'm going to have a little bit of him, and it's Bo Nix. And here's my reasoning. The dude has thrown for 42 pass attempts game 1, 35 pass attempts game 2. He has 4 interceptions, no touchdowns, but he is averaging 12 points a game. So for his salary, he's actually going over 2x. I know we're looking for a little bit more than 2x, but all that means is he needs to get one across the end zone. On top of that, he went against Seattle in Seattle, and then he went against Pittsburgh, arguably the best defense in the NFL. And now he gets to go against Tampa Bay, which I said it last week. There's nothing that scares me about the Tampa Bay Buccaneer defense. I think Bo Nix gets his first touchdown this week. Obviously, Sean Payton is not afraid to cut this dude loose and let him throw 35 plus times a game. And I think the volume is just going to continue. At that volume at 5,100, I actually feel like he's kind of a free square this week.
All right.
I like it. All right, running back. The running back. Vinny, who do you like up top? 7,000. Let's go 6,900 and up.
I mean, I think you have
switch
to.
The screen, huh?
What happened?
I'm just staring at myself on the screen.
Finger slips. No, I think you got to look back to Kamara. I don't think he's chasing. I mean, obviously, up here, I always like to say it's going to be really ownership dependent. I don't know. Do you have any ownership on Kamara early this week, Jim?
So Kamara right now is 12%.
Okay. So if he's like under 20,
Saquon and A-Chain and Mason are the 3 highest owned projected right now.
Okay. So I definitely like Kamara up here. He's just going to be involved so much, especially in the red zone. We don't have to worry about him getting, nuked anymore. They haven't, knock on wood, shown that with Taysom Hill, this new offensive coordinator. Yeah, line me up some Alvin.
Well, I don't think Taysom's going to – Taysom may or may not play, but he went to the hospital with, like, a chest injury after the last game. Now, I think he's okay, but I don't know how effective he is going to be. And with Clint Kubiak, thank God that he has finally just put the Taysom Hill story kind of out to pasture, so to speak. So that's definitely a good thing. Joe, who are you going to for your premium? I think you might have mentioned him earlier, but I'll let you kind of expand on it a little bit.
No, I think my premium guy, if I'm going to go up here, is going to be Jonathan Taylor. Is that who you were referring to? Okay.
Yeah, you mentioned him earlier. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, it's just kind of crazy. Like he's actually putting up some pretty good numbers here. He's averaging 15 points a game, and he got 16 carries in week 1 and 12 carries in week 2. We talked about this last week. If the Colts just fed him the ball and took the ball out of Anthony Richards' hands a little bit, they'd actually be pretty successful. But their offensive line is really good. I know the Bears' defense is pretty decent, but I feel like this game is going to be a game with a lot of – it's just going to be grindy. There's going to be turnovers. I feel like teams are going to get opportunities in the red zone that are kind of unexpected. Jonathan Taylor's going to sneak one across the end zone this week, and just crossing my fingers that they wake up and give this guy 20-plus carries in a game, and they'll win the ball game. So – and his price dropped, I think, $400 from last week to this week. I think it's just from the attempts, right? So if he just gets the attempts back, I mean, he's an 8K value type of running back.
All right. If we're going up top, I'm kind of torn right now. I think it's a situation for me where I'm kind of with Vinny. I'm with Kamara. But if just for, talking about its sake, I mean, I really like Devon A-Chain. I'm a little disappointed to see the ownership on him, to be honest with you. I'm hoping maybe that'll drop back down during the week. But I mean, it's just, you look at the game last week against Buffalo, they were getting blown out. They had, whoever they had Skylar Thompson in there, and he just stayed in the entire game, right? No Jeff Wilson this week. No Raheem the Dream. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where if you're going to play him, you got to do what, we've been doing with Jordan Mason the last couple of weeks and just play literally 80 to 90% of them. You just got to take a stance. And I'm considering doing that. But I don't know, just looking at the ownership, I'm definitely going to play him. I'll probably be even with the field now at about 25%, but I really, really like Vinny's call with Kamara. I don't see a reason to go away from it yet.
Even if it were chasing, it wouldn't be bad chalk in my opinion.
No.
If he gets egregious, right? He's 35, 40% owned, then no way. I'll fade anybody at that. But if he's going to be in 15%, just going back to him.
Yeah, I'm with you there. So going down to the 68, let's say the 6,000 range. My favorite, Mason, I think, are probably going to have a lot of.
Yeah.
But my favorite guy down here is going to be. Now, he didn't do that great last week, but if Kenneth Walker misses again, I'm going right back to Zach Charbonnet. He had the most carries out of any running back in week 2. Okay, the most percentage of the carries of the team. Now, I know that Josh Jacobs had 30-something carries, so he made a beat him out there.
Don't talk about my guy.
I mean, I really like Charbonnet. They're at home. They're going to try and run the ball. I like Charbonnet, and I like his skill set. I think that this game might be kind of a little bit of a sneaky, higher-scoring game than people think. And I thought that Charbonnet was going to be I thought he was going to be in the 20 to 25% range, but I'm looking at 11% ownership right now, and I'm just okay, for $6,000 for a guy that is going to get that much guaranteed volume, that's fine with me. That's not a number that's scaring me away.
Yeah. I see the
Vin, if you want to go next, if I stole your guy there for a second.
No. I mean, I'm going to take the same situation in Josh Jacobs. He's just a better player than Zach Charbonnet for what, 500 more or 700 more. I know that's a lot. It's not $100, but I just think, Jacobs, he had 32 carries last week. Now I know Jordan Love is probably expected back. They're thinking he's questionable, but even if he's back, he's not going to be running and gunning down the field and running around. They're going to protect him a little bit. Tennessee's defense is nothing to write home about. I think Jacobs, if he's going to get anywhere near 30 touches, I want him. So, and against Tennessee, that's who I'm rolling with.
All right, Joe, who do you like in this range here?
Sir Joseph.
Yeah, and if you guys were listening last week, I'm definitely reversing my stance on this one.
He's already turning back on it. What are you turning your back
well,
on?
The story is changing, right? So I'm going with Derrick Henry. I said it last week.
Benedict Arnold.
I said it last week that they're going to kind of like taper off his workload in the beginning, wait till later in the season to get him going. Well, last week they found themselves in trouble. He got himself 18 carries in last week's game. They're 0-2, backs against the wall. They need to pull a win out here on the road against Dallas, and I think they ride Derrick Henry, and this is a potential 25-plus carry game from Derrick Henry, multi-touchdown type game. Dallas, as we were talking about before we got on tonight, Dallas is not the team people were talking about this year. They're not the 2022 Cowboys. They are not as good. That defense is not as good. They're not as electric. I think Derrick Henry just absolutely eats this week at 6,500.
I could see that. I think if Lamar in that passing offense gets chalky a little bit, like it's the direction he can go. I can't imagine he's going to be very highly owned, right, Jim?
No, we're looking at a big 4% right now on Derrick Henry.
Oh,
interesting play, Joseph.
Oh,
I like it.
So there you go. So all right, go.
Anyone down low? I only have one other guy in the sixes, and that is the other side. If Tyjae Spears misses, give me some Tony Pollard. He's actually looked fairly decent. He's gotten around 15, 16 points so far in each of the first two games. So at 6K, I think he has more upside than that, but his floor seems to be pretty low, especially if Spears misses here. And they cannot trust Will Levis in any major situation because he just like hucks the ball to the other team and everything else. So
no, I like Pollard. I think the Pollard play is really good. He's averaging 17 points a game. He's getting catches, he's getting targets. He's running the ball well. I wouldn't say he's officially the Tony Pollard of old, but he looks a hell of a lot better than he did last year.
Amen.
Yeah,
well said.
That's a good one. So I'm going to a guy I have not played yet this year, but now that we've seen a couple of weeks, this is Javonte Williams' backfield. He just dominates the snap share for that team. Like Joey said, nothing scares me about Tampa Bay. His projection, is just about 2x. It's, his base projection is, 12.5 right now. But I mean, he's literally going to be 1%, maybe less against that Bucs defense. And he's not going to come off the field during passing situations. So everyone thought Jaleel McLaughlin was going to be a lot more involved, or maybe it was going to be Audric Estime, but like, McLaughlin barely played last week. Like Javonte's just dominating the snap share, and at 5,400 for a guy that's just going to dominate the snap share, like that's completely fine with me. I'll go there at 1% all day long. I like the game environment, right? And I really like that game. And I was shocked when I started doing my research to see how just like nobody's going there. And it's not like a sexy play, but if he gets to 22, right, that's we're almost at 5x at that point. So getting 25 is not bad. In a terrible game last week, it was like playing that really good Pittsburgh defense. He had 12 points, right?
Yeah, you got 5 catches, which is interesting.
This Tampa Bay defense is not that. Okay, so I'm more than fine to go there. We saw once the Lions kind of fucking figured it out that Tampa Bay's rushing defense is not very great and just start running the ball a little bit more. That's where I'm going. I'm probably going to have quite a bit of him now that I'm seeing his ownership. I realize that I don't have to have, 30 or 40% of them, but I'll probably still have 20% of Javonte Williams. It's just too cheap for the amount of opportunities that he's seeing, now for the first 2 weeks.
All right. I got nobody else. Joe,
anybody else?
I got one more guy. Just again, he's not going to be a main play of mine, but just watch out for it. And this is more based off of like comments from the head coach, and it's Zamir White for Vegas. And a lot of people have been, hey, what the hell's going on with Zamir White? Are you getting ready to pull him and start Madison? All these things. The reality is they're trying to run this zone running scheme, and it doesn't fit Zamir White's running style at all. And they were asking Pierce, are you going to pull Zamir White? And he said, absolutely not. Zamir White's our guy. If anything, we're going to start changing up our scheme a little bit. Right. So like I see the Raiders actually going a little bit more towards power run, going away from zone. That fits Zamir White's scheme a little bit. Nobody's thinking about Zamir White at this point after these first atrocious 2 weeks of the season. They're also going against the worst team in the NFL. That identity, that offense, they do want to ground and pound, and they want to establish the run game. And if there's a week to try to get that going, it's this week. They also get their second round left guard, Powers Johnson, back this week. He'll be in his first game, and he is a beast of a run blocker. So I can see Zamir White actually turning out a pretty good game here and being like 2% owned or less.
So, I mean, this narrative, I've heard the same thing, Joey, but last week, he out-carried Madison 9-4, and then Madison was just completely absent on no targets, no catches, but White had 3 catches for four targets, 3 catches, only 14 yards. But that was kind of a slug-it-out game last week. I mean, if you're just going like a one-off or you're playing the other side of this game, which some people are doing with the old Red Rocket, I'm personally not getting that gross this week. But, yeah, I think you could do a lot worse than Zamir White. I like that play, Joe.
For sure.
Yeah, it's just somewhere to get weird, especially if we're doing a big GPP. Right? Throw that dude in there. He's going to be low percentage. He's going to get a high volume. All right. Let's move on to wide receivers.
Let's do it.
Ooh, baby. Who's going to go off this week? Who's the guy? Jim, we're going to start with you. Let's just go in this. Let's go 7,400 up. Marv Harrison up. Who's your guy that's just going to torch this week?
I'm going right back to St. Brown. I like the game. He's just going to get peppered with targets again. They didn't do great last week. He's kind of Goff safety blanket a little bit. I like the Goff play. I like St. Brown quite a bit. There's definitely some more attractive guys, up there. But I'll go right back to him. He practiced today, full participant. He no longer has a questionable tag on him. I think he just had like a little thigh contusion. He came back into the game last week. People were like really worried about it for some reason, but like I was watching that game and he came out and went back in. So he's a tough son of a bitch too. And like, he's the type of guy that can have that like 35, 38 point game. I'm going to go back. I played a little bit of him last week. I'm going to play a lot more this week. Joe, what about you?
Yes, sir. I don't want to steal Vinny's, but I think because he talked about it earlier, it's a great play. But I'll go right on the other side of Marvin Harrison Jr. again. I'm just going to keep riding it. He got me a lot of money last week. Again, I talked about this earlier. This is going to be the highest scoring game on the slate, most likely. And Marvin Harrison Jr., if you're able to sneak in like a Marvin Harrison Jr. and an Amon-Ra in the same stack and the same lineup, sign me up. I'm down for that. 7,400 is just too cheap for that kind of volume, that kind of output that he put out last week.
Yep, I like it. Then who you got?
Well, I'm rolling with my narrative that this is going to be a crazy game or close game, and I think it's going to be a Devontae Adams game at home.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, sorry, was I losing it there?
No, I thought you were going to go with CD here.
No, I thought about it. No, I'm going Devontae Adams. Obviously, I like the price discount off of CD. You get $1,200 back in your pocket. Keep that. But no, like this is a guy who's going to see like 10, 12, 15 targets in this game. Again, I don't think they like roll Carolina here. That's just not what the Raiders do in these matchups. Like,
I know.
They'll beat Baltimore, and this thing will come down to the wire or like a double over, or like an overtime game that almost like runs out.
Yeah, like I've been thinking about it all week. There's no way the Raiders are covering this game. It's just the Raiders thing.
Carolina's probably the play, but no, it's Devontae Adams if I'm going up here.
Or they'll do what they did to the Chargers last week or last year out of nowhere and score like 70, which is you're gonna want him anyway, right? So yeah, I like that call. All right, so underneath, so let's go Nico Collins at 73 down to Metcalf at 63. Who's your one guy in there, Joe?
Oh, I got to go back to our boy Godwin. Dude, you guys called it last week. I lined him up in 50% of lineups, and that at the end of the day, I mean, there's a lot of things that got me there, but dude, Godwin putting up the numbers he did last week, and what you guys were saying last week just convinced me where he's playing in the slot. That's where he's comfortable. That's where he eats. Baker wants to get the ball out quick, and if he's scrambling around, I mean, him and Godwin have a rapport. He's his underneath guy, and I think he's going to get 10 targets a game the entire season.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's almost like I don't really care about ownership with him. I think they're just gonna fucking pepper the shit out of this guy, and it just like why not?
Look at the matchup too, right? Like Patrick Surtain, I'm guessing it's going to be stuck on Evans.
Yeah,
he's a bigger corner. They're going to try to shut down that deep ball. And, well, that should leave, like you said, like 10, 12, 15 targets for Godwin this week. Like, how is it not there? Just
they could have the Broncos could have beat the Steelers last week, no problem, if they had a halfway decent or the Steelers could have beat the Broncos last week, even worse, if they had a halfway decent secondary wide receiver. But they're running fucking Van Jefferson and whoever the hell else out there, right? Patrick Surtain is the real fucking deal. And he's going to follow guys. He's done it 2 weeks in a row now. They paid him a shitload of money. And, that's just – he's just going to lock those guys up. So Mike Evans is going to have some big games this year. It's not going to be this week. So I love that call, Joe. I'll be going back there with you. Vinny, who do you like in this, 73 to 63 range?
It's definitely Ayuk in the spot. I mean, I like you said, I definitely envision what?
Go ahead.
I definitely envision Purdy being like more like idiot, more efficient with it, but like there's no one else. Like he's gonna throw the ball. Ayuk's gonna have like 8 to 10 catches in this one, not a doubt.
Okay.
Yep.
In that range, man, just based on looking at the ownership right now, I talked about it earlier. I'm going to be playing some CJ Stroud, and I'm going to Stephon Diggs. I think that he's going to be running that kind of the middle of the field, the mid option routes like Debo ran this week with the Vikings. I just think that, he's still got a little bit left in the tank, and I think that they're going to have to throw a fair amount. I think that, Stephon Diggs could have a Godwin type game from last week, and he's just getting fucking squeezed in ownership. Devonta Smith is going to be 30+%. Godwin's going to be around 20%, and Diggs is like 3 or 4%. I like the play. I love the Nico Collins thing, right? But I'm going to be playing triple stacks with CJ, Nico, and then Stephon Diggs. I really, really like Diggs this week. It's just I think it's one of those good spots, and at 6,600, people are going to think it's too expensive, and I'm more than happy to go there.
Bang, bang.
All right, let's open up this mid-range. Let's go for one guy from 5,000 to 6,200. Who's your favorite guy? Well, 6,100. Who's your favorite guy in that 61 to 5,000 range?
All right. He's going to do it this week, and it's Amari Cooper.
It's his week.
There we go.
He has 5 catches on the year, but he has 17 targets. Okay? The volume's there. They're trying to get him the ball. Deshaun can just figure this out a little bit, and we just talked about it. This Giants defense, that secondary is really bad. Amari Cooper definitely looking at a possible 8+ catch game, multi-touchdown type game, and just absolutely exploding, being at that sub 5% ownership as well. And again, just against a bad team, and he's getting the volume. Just his quarterback needs to get him the ball. That would help.
Yep, I like it. Vinny, who's your guy in here?
Yeah, you saw it on the group chat last week. I'm not going to make the mistake again of not playing Rashid Shaheed and multiple lineups. The dude's just balling, and we've seen it with if he gets a matchup, especially on that turnstile CJ Gardner-Johnson, it is on. And so Shaheed is freaking awesome, dude. And last week I was so pissed because I played my car lineup that you guys were all bagging on me for. And I played him with Olave and not Shaheed or Kamara. And I was so pissed watching it. So I'm going back to this little guy that can fly.
All right. I'm going to a guy that has not put up great
I don't even know if he's little. I'm just saying.
He's not that little. I'm going back to a guy that, again, you can watch the box scores and you can look at results and they can tell you some things. But if you don't watch the games, there's easy ways to watch all the games really quickly. The NFL Plus Premium, you can watch condensed versions of the games and you can do it in 20 minutes. Go watch George Pickens last week. Okay. He's 5,700. He had two fucking touchdowns called back from horseshit penalties. Okay. I don't love talking about the refs, right? But at 5,700, he's literally the only thing they've got. Okay. They've got Van Jefferson. They've got the Moose. They don't have fucking anybody, which is why they were really trying to trade for Ayuk. But at 5,700 for a guy that is going to get 30, 40, 45% target share on his team, he's playing the Chargers. The Chargers defense is nothing crazy right now. It's going to be, obviously Chargers going to try and run the ball a little bit, but that Pittsburgh run defense is really good. I think this game, it's got a 35 total, but Pittsburgh's at home. Pickens is only 5,700. We don't need a ton from him to go, 5-6x here. So 25 points, which he would have had easily last week if those two touchdowns didn't get called back, right? Against Patrick Surtain, who he actually played pretty well against, all things considered. So 5,700, he's getting squeezed right there by Jamison Williams, who's a good play. But if we're looking at 15 to 18% ownership on Jamison Williams, we're looking at 3 to 5% on Pickens. That's just something where you have to take advantage of because Pickens is going to get more target share. He's going to get more opportunity, and I'll just take the gamble there for the higher ceiling on Pickens. All right, let's go dumpster diving. It's kind of tough this week, but do you guys have anybody down deep?
I don't know how deep this is, but I like Josh Reynolds for Denver.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, man. He's got 9 catches for 138 over 2 games. Again, he sneaks one in the end zone. He's getting the targets. He's on the field 80% of the time. He's on the field for all the pass routes. Again, just from the sheer volume perspective, and Tampa's defense is not great. I can see Josh Reynolds getting a lot of catches and hopefully sneaks one across the end zone at 4,400 with that kind of potential. He's going to be a great low-priced, low-owned guy this week that you can get away with in a lot of your lineups.
All right.
Cool.
Vinny, you got any weird dumpster dive plays this week?
No, I don't think he's a play this week, but can we just take a pause and give ourselves a little bit of a golf clap on the bounce back from Quentin Johnston that everybody threw in the trash, and this pod stood by him, took him all over the place in best ball. Good job, QJ. But he's not this week. I don't like him either.
All right, we'll take the golf clap though. I don't hate that.
Yeah, the one guy that I have is just kind of a weird play in here, and he's not cheap, but I like Adam Thielen at 5K. Hear me out. Raider game, we saw Thielen. I don't know if you saw the highlight of this, but Thielen was so pissed last week that Bryce Young couldn't complete a pass. Dude, Andy Dalton, the old dogs are going to sync up in Vegas here. And dude, I remember was it last year when Thielen had the 6-week nuke? Or was that 2 years ago? But I'm just saying this could be the start of something where we see a mega Thielen run with 13 catches on Sunday.
I like that. I've got kind of a weird one. And when you start looking at results over the last over the first 2 weeks, we don't know the full story of everything yet, but how many targets over the first 2 weeks do you guys think that Wan'Dale Robinson has?
Oh, dude, I think he's up. He's plus 15. He's plus 15 targets.
He's got 17 targets the first 2 weeks. So their offense is extremely condensed. It's Neighbors and it's Wan'Dale. It's Neighbors deep and it's Wan'Dale everything underneath. Now, is it going to be he's not going to catch these super long passes or anything like that, but they're short, easy throws for Jones to get kind of in a rhythm for. And that's kind of, if you watch the games, a lot of his catches come early in the game, right? I think in the first half last week, he had 6 targets and 4 catches just because Brian Daboll is trying to get Daniel Jones going, trying to get him comfortable, right? basically treating him like a rookie quarterback, just trying to get him in a little bit of a rhythm, right? Now, Cleveland's got a pretty good pass rush, so if he has to get the ball out quickly, I mean, at 4,400, we don't need a whole hell of a lot for him to get to like 16 to 17 points, and that's like 4x for me. I mean, that's fine. He caught a touchdown last week. I think he goes for another touchdown this week, and at 4,400, again, 1% owned for a guy who has 17 targets. Like, it's just easy.
All right.
All right, tight end, the wasteland position of the year here.
Well, to be honest, guys, like I almost hit on the 3-player prop parlay last week. Didn't get there because Laporta couldn't get there because really it was Goff. I couldn't get him there. But my best lineup last week was actually a double tight end lineup with McBride and Bowers. They both got me like 18.5 and about 18.8 points together. So I'm not afraid of it. I am very hesitant to do this, but I want to play Sam Laporta again. I just have to believe that Detroit needs to understand that the reason that offense is not clicking the way they need it to click is because he is not involved in the offense in the first 2 weeks. When he's involved, it opens up everything for those wide receivers in that running game. And at some point, I'm hoping it's this week that they realize, like, no, we got to get this guy in the game and involved. And when that happens, he's going to explode. And I feel like if there's a time to buy the stock low, it's now.
Yep. I called it last week, and I hope you guys played it. I have no idea why his ownership is so low this week at George Kittle. I just don't get it. There's no and Debo played last week, and George Kittle still fucking smashed. Okay, he's gonna do it again this week. The Rams, just like the Vikings, run a lot of zone. He absolutely fucking eats up zone, and now with no Debo in there, like I don't get it. The guy had 25 points last week, and now he's 5% owned again. Like, I get everyone's looks like they want to go play Brock Bowers. Like, I like Brock Bowers just as much as anybody. But, like, I'll get weird and play 2 tight ends with Bowers and Kittle. I have no problem doing that this week, right? But I just don't get where everyone's going, right? There's proven statistics out there. His target share jumps about 8% with Deebo Samuel out of the lineup. He's Brock's safety blanket, right? You know, now he's got to look for Ayuk a little bit more, I think, this week. But, you know, at 5,700, a guy who I think is pretty much, I mean, you're never a lock to go for 28 points. But George Kittle, if you're looking for a tight end to break the slate, I think he's the guy that has legitimate 30-point upside at the tight end spot this week. Again, they're on their 3rd string safety. They play 3 safeties. Like, the Rams defense is just fucking bad. Okay, so, like, I don't know what people are thinking, but I'll go right back to Kittle this week. Vinny, who's your guy?
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm rocking with the Raiders here this week, but, I mean, like, Brock Bowers is already a top, like, 3 tight end in the NFL. Like,
yeah, it's hard to go away from him.
He's got 17 or 18 catches through 2 games. Like, I know the Raiders, like, I actually like Jacoby Myers and I like Trey Tucker, but, like, that offense is Devontae Adams and Brock Bowers. Like, they just pepper those 2 guys. And
but look, Brock Bowers, if you're watching the games, like, legit, the wrong guys are covering him. It's a mismatch. Yeah. And he's just breaking away. I mean, and the balls he's catching aren't little, like, arrow routes at the line of scrimmage. Like, he's catching 12 to 15-yard routes down the field, down the seam.
They're throwing it far downfield for him. His average depth of target right now, I think, is about 13 yards. So for a tight end, that's really good.
But that's what I mean. They say this guy came out, like, dominated the SEC as a freshman. The kid's from Napa and went to Georgia. That tells you all you need to know about how good he was. Like, yeah, I'm just going to keep playing him. Like you said, I don't think I'm going to really get too cute. Like, I might be either double lineup or double tight ends in a lineup, or I'm going to play like just 50% Kittle and 50% Bowers.
I'm not playing. I don't think that there's a tight end that I'm interested in playing that's cheaper than Brock Bowers this week.
I agree. Especially after Parkinson kind of screwed all of us last week.
Yeah, not outside of his stack, definitely.
And Parkinson is going up against who's covering the middle of the field for the 49ers.
Yeah.
The guy who I thought had his best year of the year last year, but so far, Fred Warner, he's just on another level again. He's just a fucking absolute dick hammer in the middle of the field. And it's just like, dude, you can't get anything by him. He covers anybody. He's punching balls out. People are getting upset that he's throwing punches, but it's a balls. Like, I don't know. It's just, I can't play. I get it, but I just can't play Colby Parkinson. All right, enough of that. Defense. We hit last week. I literally played the Cardinals. I know, Vinny, you did well with the Packers. That's great. I played the Cardinals in 97% of my lineups last week. So, and it worked out great at 2,300. Is there a cheap defense that we like this week?
Well, I actually want to go all the way up at defense this week, and I feel like with my builds, I can get there.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I just want to flip it before we go down low. And
that's fine.
Look, pay all the way up and just go to the Browns. Everyone's going to kind of go away from it because of what the Giants did last week with Neighbors and Jones and all that. I'm sorry. This Browns defense is sick. That D-line is insane. The secondary is insane. Daniel Jones is going to have a really rough week this week. He's going to see ghosts. And look, the Browns have 7 sacks in 2 games. They haven't gotten a turnover yet. Daniel Jones is 100% going to have some turnovers this week. 100%.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. All right, Vinny, who's your defense you really like this week?
I mean, they're right next to each other, so I'll just kind of loop them in together. But I'm going to be playing a fair amount of they're cheaper. I'm going to play, as far as a cheap defense, Chicago. And the other one I'm going to play is Green Bay. Like, I'm just going to target Will Levis and Anthony Richardson from the defenses. Like,
Will Levis, I mean, does some fucking weird shit with
his head coach is publicly like calling out how dumb he is during press conference, like post game.
And they got nobody else to go to, right? There's nobody else in the cupboard to go to. So I mean, it's gonna be Will Levis. So I mean, that's a good one.
And take that prop too. Like, he's a guaranteed turnover. So like, there you go, Joe. Build that into your little prop tool.
Relay,
But Anthony Richardson's the same thing. Like, he might put up 40 points, but he might turn it over 4 times too. So I like both of those teams.
My favorite defense is, until he can show that he knows how to play in the NFL, I am going to play defenses against this guy every week that I have the opportunity. And this week it's going to be the Indianapolis Colts against the Bears.
What a mismatch in the front 7, dude.
Massive mismatch. Their line is terrible. Montez Sweat and company, that's the strength of the Bears defense, is their the Bear. I like the Bears too. Colts got a good defense. Okay.
Yeah.
I've watched the film on Caleb Williams for 2 weeks in a row now. He's missing reads. He's late. He's just trying to thread the ball in like he used to at USC. And against grown men out there, it's just not fucking working, right? I think that Shane Waldron is a pretty bad offensive coordinator. There's a reason why Seattle just said, no thanks. We're good. Go do something else. And they chose him to be the guy that mentors him. I don't love it. At 3,200, I think a pick 6 is definitely coming. So that's where I'm going there. And if I'm going cheap, I actually don't mind the Titans defense, especially. Some people might get scared off of them if Love is back, but that knee, he's not going to be as mobile. I think he's going to just be more apt to just like take a couple of sacks if he needs to. And at 2,700, I really only need like 5 or 6 points out of that defense to kind of get there for me. So, but below that, I don't know if I can go dumpster diving any further below that this week.
Well, look, there's a lot of cost savings across the entire lineups this week, so you can pay up a bit on defense. And I'm glad I did last week. I mean, I just spread out the Steelers in 80% of lineups, and they got me about 15 points, and they were worth the price at 3,500. So, just pay up, and there you go. All right, guys, that's it for that.
Top stack.
Let's get into our top stacks and our hot plays.
All right.
My top stack of the week is the Detroit Lions. I'm going right back to the well. They've been burning me. Don't care. Going to keep going back. The run backs are too easy. It's going to be the highest points of the entire weekend in this game. Cardinal stack, run it back. Detroit stack, run it back with some Cardinals on the other side, and vice versa. But that game, I'm just obsessed. I don't really care about the ownership.
I am going with the masseuse or the masseuse. I don't know. He probably hangs out with Diddy a lot, unfortunately. But it's going to be Deshaun Watson. Don't know how many more games he's got in the NFL. Yeah, a lot of baby oil. But you could stack him with Judy. I don't think you really have to. I really just like Watson and Cooper. You can run it back with Wandale, or you can go to Neighbors. It's whoever you want to, really there. I kind of prefer doing it with Wandale and just maximizing on all my other positions so I don't have to pay down a defense and stuff like that. But yeah, it's gonna be the Danny Dimes and Neighbors stack came through for me last week, and it's gonna be Watson and Cooper this week. Vinny, who's your top stack?
It is Minshew, Adams, and Bowers.
Welcome to the. Okay, we're definitely losing.
Welcome
this week.
to the.
By the way, if you're listening to this, the fact
No.
that Jimmy and Vinny are on the Raiders,
I don't ever trash them.
Run for the hills.
Actually, I do trash them. But yes, that is going to be the stack that you want this week. I just love that you get Minshew so cheap. You can get Adams. You can get two of those receivers that we talked about, or two of the tight ends in that high five, like 6K range. Like it still allows you to build a pretty balanced lineup, and you're getting against the worst defense I've maybe ever seen in the NFL. So line it up.
Line it up.
All right.
I like it.
All right. So Vinny, we'll just cannonball it straight back to you. Who is your bold call of the week?
I think it's Bowers. So I think we could see, I know we've talked about him quite a bit here the first couple of podcasts, but I think you see double-digit catches, and I think you see a multiple touchdown game out of him. So, I think Bowers is like one of the safest plays, in my opinion, on the slate this week.
All right.
Joe, who's your bold call? I'll go last.
Bold call of the week is Bo Nix gets us the rare 5X game, and that is a 25-point game this week with Bo Nix.
Mr. Bo.
5X.
Right. I will stick with my guy who is my favorite premium receiver with Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I will say he goes for 40.
Amon-Ra, sun god,
40.
into the desert.
0-4-0.
Goes off.
Damn.
Into the desert, harnesses the power of the Egyptian gods and brings it home.
Now I'm sold.
It goes off like a nuclear test site in the middle of the desert.
I didn't even think about the sun god being in the desert. That's all you had to say.
Mm-hmm. Got to play the narratives, dude.
Well, not Trevor Bank Stadium, but other narratives.
That did not go over so well.
Shad Khan just sitting there like, I don't get it. I don't know why.
I think Christian Kirk would very much prefer to see Trevor Bank Stadium, that little sign just burned.
For sure. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you tune in to the rest of our podcast, all of our showdown shows, all of our circuit pick shows. Follow us on Twitter. Engage with us. We have a fun time doing it. So definitely engage with us on Twitter with our picks, our plays, etc. You can be mean, nasty, whatever. I'm sure we'll have some funny comebacks. And again, and Vinny changed his Twitter handle. So it's Vinny Levine 29. Not to be confused with the notorious VJL. They're different people.
We don't know who that is.
Make sure you're following the right people. Then we got JJ McIntosh and Joey Props with a Z, as I'm just an absolute loser on props.
All right. With a Z. See you later.